You know, it's almost 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. I should be in bed because I gotta get up at about 6 in the morning to get ready for work, but I can't sleep. So I guess this is an excuse to make a video. So, guys, welcome back to my channel. Thanks for viewing my videos. Certainly appreciate your time that you take to watch them. This is going to be another part of my autograph collection. Now, I have other autographs that I, just haven't had a chance to hunt down to find to show off in this video. So we'll do that in a separate video. But today, these are the ones I was able to grab. These are some 8x10s, some 12x11s, I think they are, bigger photos, and some small stuff. So without further ado, let's take a look at what we got. This is a CD cover autographed by Peter Tork of the Monkees. Me and my friend went to go see him actually at a restaurant. He played. We're both huge Monkey fans. Stop laughing. And he, after he did his set, he bought the CD from him. He autographed it. So, got the autograph from Peter Tork. Very cool there. This was from a wrestling tag team called the Power Twins. They were indie guys here in the East Coast. Dave and Larry Power, I believe the guy's name is. The autograph's actually inside this magazine. I got this signed back when WrestleMania 10 was here in New York City, and some of the wrestlers appeared at the Fan Fest. Now, if I can just find the autographs, I should have had this prepared. This might take a minute or two to find it, which I apologize about for. It's not here. Here's the first one. Razor Ramon. Scott Hall signed that picture for me. And somewhere in here in this magazine is one other autograph. Wow. Remember these? 12 cassettes for a penny? Then they try to rip you off on CDs afterward? How many of you guys actually did that? And here's the other autograph. Dink, the midget wrestler who was partnered with Doink the Clown when Doink turned face. So he signed that for me. This is one of my cherished possessions. This is an autographed CD case from Kiss. I am a huge Kiss fan. Right here you got Gene Simmons, Paul Stanley, Peter Criss, and Tommy Thayer. I did not get Ace to sign this because Ace didn't play on the Sympathy record. And they did a signing in Tower Records in New York when Tower was still around. And I got this signed by all 4 members of the band. So this will definitely be framed up one day. Got this autographed by former New Jersey Devil, Zach Parisi, who's now with the Minnesota Wild. He signed this 8x10 for me. Got this signed by current Mets manager, Terry. Oh my goodness, I'm horrible. His name just escapes me. But he's the manager of the Mets right now. And it's going to hit me later on, I know it. It's going to be another repeat where I'm going to remember the name after the video. I'm going to have to click back onto the video and give you the guy's name. But we waited outside. My friend actually did, and I did. I waited with him. He's a massive Met fan. I just went with him for the ride. And got this signed by him outside at SNY Studios when he did an interview when he was first hired with the Mets. A couple of the old WWE or old Pro Wrestling Illustrated posters, which I actually had for wanting to get autographed, and of course never got them autographed. So an autographed little picture of Willis Reed, center for the New York Knicks. A friend of mine gave this to me. Willis Reed is one of those guys I wish I could meet in person. He doesn't do autograph signings. None of the old Knicks who from the championship teams really do autograph signings. The only one from the '73 team that I've seen and I've met, which I'll show in another video, is Earl the Pearl Monroe. Actually, Walt Frazier does signings also. I did meet Walt Frazier once. I got an autograph on a mini ball, but the ball didn't come out that great, so I have to try to see if I can get him. Lucky for me, he owns a restaurant here in New York. Not Willis Reed, I'm sorry, Walt Frazier, and he sometimes will appear at the restaurant and sign for you, so I can catch him then. But this one, I'm very happy to have because I am a massive Knicks fan, and I would love to meet him one day and see if I can get something bigger or even a basketball signed. And on the other side is current Kiss drummer Eric Singer. My friend got this also for me, as I believe this was a Christmas gift. So this was pretty cool. One of my more cherished possessions is an 8x10 signed by 3 of the Monkees. Davy Jones, who's since passed on, Mickey Dolenz, who's the last one to sign this, and Peter Tork signed this at a convention. I'm just missing Mike Nesmith. I probably could have gotten Mike Nesmith last year at one of the horror cons here that he appeared, but he was charging like $75 for his autograph, and I was like, yeah, no. But I'm gonna have to get him at some point. They are getting old on, and I would like to complete the 8x10 and be able to frame it up. Got another New Jersey Devil here. I got Ken Danico signed this 8x10 of his retirement ceremony, which I think is a really cool picture. One of my all-time favorite wrestlers, Mick Foley, signed this 8x10 for me. It's a really sweet gold pen of Mankind. Got Jimmy Leyritz to sign this 8x10 for me as he crosses home plate in the 96 World Series after he hit the go-ahead home run, I believe in Game 4 it was, if I'm not mistaken. Could be Game 3, but I'm thinking Game 4. Actually, no, was it Game... Yeah, no, it was Game 3. Game 4, rather. It was Game 4. Got Kurt Angle to sign this 8x10 for me. He appeared at a place called Game Time, I think it was. It was in Brooklyn, over in Sheepshead Bay, which is no longer there now. And I got him to sign this, and when I shook his hand, he had the hardest grip I've ever had of meeting a person before. So, dude's legitimately strong. One of my most cherished possessions. This is autographed by my favorite wrestler of all time, Roddy Piper, and he signed this, a picture of him at Piper's Pit. And at the same time that I met him, Captain Lou Albano was signing in one of his last appearances before he passed on, and he signed this for me also. So I got Piper and Captain Lou. I just need Cyndi Lauper to sign this, and I can complete the piece. Piper is my all-time favorite wrestler. I wanted to show you my next autograph. I got a story, kind of a small story to tell you about it. Was devastated when Piper passed. I just got this from the Jets flight crew. They were walking around during a game time, handing out these flyers, and got a couple of them to sign it. Got this during my graphing days. Eddie Curry, Zach Randolph, David Lee, and Jamal Crawford. Got all these guys to sign the piece. I think I got Steph also. I think that's Steph's autograph right there. I don't really remember right now at the top of my head. But got this piece done. This was outside the Garden when the Knicks were, if you think the Knicks were bad now, they were truly bad back in the day. The only person that really did anything for us was David Lee. He was a consistent double guy. I actually have a small PC of David Lee, which I'll show off at some point. Jamal Crawford was great, a really good player, three-point hitter from the outside, mid-range jumper. He did win a Sixth Man of the Year award after he left the Knicks. I've always wanted to see if I can get him back at some point. We all know the Stephon Marbury came in with great promise. He led us to the playoffs one year. We got swept by the Nets of all teams, but I think that's when the Nets were really good still. And then when they appeared in the finals in 2 years in a row, I think this was the second year that they appeared in the finals, and they swept us on the way to it. Zach Randolph came in with such promise, and he just didn't live up to it. And speaking of guys who did not live up to the hype, Eddie Curry, need I say more? This one is from the Upper Deck UD Portraits. Don Mattingly. This was for a product and that Upper Deck came out with, and I actually made a trade for this. I had to have it for the Yankees PC and for my Donnie Baseball PC, so this will also go framed up at some point. A friend of mine got this at a New York Car Show. Rey Mysterio was appearing. Actually, it was a toy show that he got into. I couldn't get into it, but he got into it, and he got Rey Mysterio to sign the cover of the WWE magazine for me. And Mysterio is one of my all-time favorites. He's a great, probably the greatest high flyer I've ever seen. If you think his WWE stuff was good, you've got to watch some of his ECW stuff. Amazing. And the match he had with Eddie Guerrero at Halloween Havoc, back in the 90s when he was still with WCW, was probably probably in my top 10 matches of all time. If you haven't seen any of those matches, hit on to not WWE Classics, I'm sorry, WWE Network. If you're a wrestling fan, look up that match, Eddie Guerrero versus Rey Mysterio Jr. Halloween Havoc. You won't be disappointed. Picture of one of my all-time favorite Yankees, Greg Nettles. Man disappointed me every time I meet him. He's very surly, not the nicest guy in the world. So he's since then been replaced as one of my favorite Yankees. I still like the guy. I liked how I liked how he played the game. One of the greatest third basemen I've ever seen. I've always felt if Brooke Robinson was in the Hall of Fame, he should have at least gotten more consideration for Hall of Fame. And on the other side, I got Sean Landetta. Got this in person also at a function. Not a Giants fan, but I don't turn away an autograph. I believe there's another autograph behind here. If I could, that's Victoria. Oh, Francine rather. Francine from ECW. Yeah, there's got a Giant to sign this. I can't remember who it was. We're going to start working on this 8x10 in case there's any Giants that ever sign at a free signing or something. So I have this is number 58. I don't remember the guy's name. Oh, I just don't remember his name. I'm sorry. I don't remember who that is. I'll have to figure that out another time. I wonder if there's anything behind the Nettles. Nope, nothing behind the Nettles. Moving on. So yeah, I got Francine to sign this at a convention. She was with Tommy Dreamer. She was with the Pit Bulls. She was with Shane Douglas, managed valet for these guys in the ECW days. She never did move on to the WWE. Though she did told me that Paul Heyman had promised her he was going to bring her in at some point. That obviously just never happened. Autograph of Nikolai Volkoff, one of the early villains that I remember watching when I was watching wrestling as a kid. I've been watching wrestling since 1982. Yeah, really old. So yeah, I've been watching wrestling for years, and he was one of the first villains I can recall. Here's another David Lee, 8x10. And one of Anthony Mason, did an autograph signing when Steiner used to own ice cream shops here in the New York area. He did an appearance there, and it was a free signing, so I went and got Mace to sign the 8x10 for me. Nothing in the back. Another autograph of Roddy Piper. Piper was, when I met him, he was like the nicest guy ever. I remember telling him that, this was like meeting my Mickey Mantle. As a kid, Piper was everything to me, man. No one made me laugh harder when I would watch wrestling than Roddy Piper. And I'm a guy who loves humor, so yeah, I gravitated towards him. I dressed as Piper for Halloween one year. Whenever Piper wrestled the Garden, I was always there. And I was the only one at the time cheering for him. I actually got beer thrown at me. I didn't get to go to WrestleMania, but I got to the match that built up to WrestleMania. I was at the match in the Garden when Piper fought Hogan in the war to settle the score. If you guys aren't wrestling fans, the match was actually it was a clusterfuck. Oh, excuse my language. I'm sorry. But what it was basically was it ended in a DQ. Basically, there was interference by Paul Orndorff and Bob Orton. Cyndi Lauper tried to get involved in the action, and she was going to get beaten supposedly on. And then Mr. T jumped out of the audience and protected her, and they attacked Mr. T. Then Hogan and T fought them off, and the cops got involved. As a 12-year-old, I think I might have been 12, 13 at the time, and it was I will never forget being in that Garden. That was the only, and I've been to other pay-per-views, and this wasn't even a pay-per-view. But you could cut the electricity with a knife in that place when Piper and Hogan first squared off. It was that intense, man. And this was when wrestling was wrestling. Not to knock the wrestlers now. The wrestlers now are phenomenal, but this match was awesome. And it wasn't even a pay-per-view. Got this signed by the Boogie Woogie Man, Jimmy Valiant. He was a former WWF tag team champion at the time. He had his most success in NWA, which eventually became WCW. Got this one signed by Y2J Chris Jericho. I remember when I met Jericho, I was wearing a Beatles t-shirt. Sorry about that, guys. I got cut off. Anyway, I was wearing a Beatles t-shirt when I met Jericho. I met him in Nanuet, I believe, at the mall up there in Rockland County, which is probably about like an hour away from where I live. And he kept looking at the shirt that I was wearing. I didn't realize it then, but after reading his books, he's a massive Beatles fan. So I guess he thought it was a pretty cool t-shirt. Other side, I got Missy Hyatt. This was the only picture I could get. Believe me, when I went to go meet her, I was looking for another picture because at the time I was with someone and she was not really appreciative of this picture. But I got Missy Hyatt to sign this picture. Okay, moving on. Wendy Richter. I remember she was involved in an angle. Wendy, Cyndi Lauper managed Wendy Richter, and she was the one that dethroned the Fabulous Moolah. Fabulous Moolah held the WWF Women's Championship for about 40 years, 30 years, I think, 30, 40 years, until Wendy Richter finally knocked her off. So it was a big deal when she won that title. Unfortunately, she was a two-time women's champion. Unfortunately, I think they screwed her out of the belt, and she lost the belt to I forgot who she lost the belt to, but I remember reading that she left the garden still in her wrestling gear, really upset, and she never went back. It's an autograph of Test. God rest his soul. Test is no longer with us. I believe he committed suicide. Another one of my most cherished autographs, Bret the Hitman Hart. Not the nicest guy when I met him. He seemed like he was pretty surly. They didn't have any more pictures of him with the WWE title, so I grabbed the one with him in the Intercontinental title, which I still think is a pretty sweet picture. Got one of an old-time wrestling villain, Ox Baker. Another one of my favorite autographs, which unfortunately I'm probably... Sorry guys, for some reason this keeps cutting off, so I'm going to try to go as fast as possible. Stone Cold did an autograph signing, and they gave out these paper autographs, so I'm probably going to have to wind up cutting this autograph and matting it with a bigger photo, because I don't think he does autograph signings anymore. So this one's another one of my prized possessions. The boss, George Steinbrenner, signed this to me through the mail when he was signing. I actually sent him a postcard, and I got a letter back saying that, because of eBay, he won't sign anything but this picture. So, hey, I'm happy with it. It's gonna get framed one day. Another one of my most prized possessions, Adam West signed me a Batman picture a couple years before he passed. So, this one will always stay with me. Now to the really big ones, really quick. Mike Zeck, who drew Secret Wars, signed this for me at my most recent Comic-Con that I went to. This was signed by Tim Sale, Tim Sale, who drew Spider-Man Blue. One of my favorite Spider-Man stories of all time. This was signed by Neil Adams, one of my favorite artists of all time. Drew Batman back in the early 70s. Van Williams signed this bigger picture for me. He played the Green Hornet in the 60s, and he just recently passed about a year ago, I believe. And probably one of my favorite pieces of all time to close this out. This is signed by Adam West, Lee Merriweather, and Burt Ward. This is a really slim picture of the poster from the 1966 Batman movie. Between the two seasons, they made a movie to promote the show overseas, and it was released in the States also. But the movie was made to promote the show overseas. And a lot of the footage you'll see, like when they're in the Batboat or in the Batcopter, it was used on the show also. So they reused that footage. But I love this movie, and he is my Batman. You can keep Ben Affleck, and although I like Ben Affleck and Christian Bale and Michael Keaton and Val Kilmer and George Clooney, that's my Batman. And this piece will be framed when I am able to get a bigger place and have a man cave or at least a man corner of some sort and put this up. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching the video. It's almost 1 o'clock in the morning here, so I really got to get to bed. I'll upload this in the morning. Please click a thumbs up if you like the video. Leave a comment below. Subscribe if you haven't already. And again, thanks for watching the video, guys. Remember, collecting's the life, so keep living.